I talked before about this idea of documentation culture. So you create a place to create documentation, you try and encourage everyone in your team to do it. And then you've got this idea of like the McDonald's step-by-step instructions, or flying an aeroplane or maintaining an aeroplane, you have a checklist. But there's something else that I didn't mention in those videos, and that's Dave's stupid car hire. So, and you're welcome to use this. Because I wasn't using my car very much, especially during the pandemic, because obviously we don't need to go and see people as much nowadays, work from home. Because of that, I put my car on this app called Churro, so you can hire my car out by the day. That's not important, it's just like a stupid hobby business, but the reason I call it Dave's stupid car hire is because it taught me something really important, which I've overlooked till now, which is often people create a document, a step-by-step process for something, and think that's the end of the process, but actually that's just the start. So I have it set up so when you hire my car, you get a load of automated messages throughout the day until you go and pick it up. And what's here is so important, and this is the really important learning outcome, is every time someone asks a question, I go back, I look at what I've told them, and I try and figure out what I need to change, so that's a question I don't need to answer. So most of the time, like Churro's like Airbnb for cars, yeah? Most of the time, people hire my car, they take it, I never speak to them, they say, oh, Dave was really responsive, gave me great feedback. Oh, Dave was really responsive, really helpful, really communicative. I didn't communicate with them once, but they thought I did because I nurtured that relationship by every time going back. Now, the reason this is important is because in your business, you may be thinking, oh, my team never seems to do things the same way. I was having a conversation about this morning, which is kind of why this is resonating with me. People never do things the same way. They don't follow my instructions. They just go off and do their own thing. There's a checklist, but they just ignore it. It's because it's not part of the process that they're using. There's no iterative loop. So if you use something like a wiki, I mentioned before in SharePoint, you can do that, or in our documentation Hoodoo that we use. It's really important every time you're going through that process, you go, oh, I didn't understand this, or this didn't work, or the customer had a problem with this, and change it. Because the documentation's not finished. It's not like you are McDonald's and there's a team of 500 people or 100 people, whatever, at the head office that are spending time doing this. And that's the process they're going through. They're going and watching what's happening, and they're fixing stuff. But in a small business, everybody in the team needs to be doing that. They need to be going through and fixing stuff in the documentation, in the process, what you're sharing with your customers, to make things really simple. And if you do it well, people think that you really care about them. Where in fact, what you're doing is you're freeing up your time to deal with those exceptions, those things that are more difficult to deal with, because you're not spending time on all the rubbish. So my recommendation for you today is, as part of your documentation culture, get into the habit of every time there's a question that comes back, go and take a hard look at that process and fix the underlying issue. Maybe you just need to tweak a few words, maybe you need to add a sentence, maybe take a paragraph out. But you'll know, and by doing that on a daily, weekly basis, over time, you will eliminate 90% of the dross and the frustration in your life. So when it comes to Dave's stupid car hire, those people, great example is, you have to pick up the car from a lockbox, yeah? So to get to the lockbox, you have to put in a code, but there's like a little cover that covers over the code. And somebody had to go, this was another host, they had to go and meet the person because they couldn't figure out how to slide the plastic cover up. As soon as I heard that, I immediately went and changed my instructions. So it says, slide up the black plastic cover. Seems like a ridiculously small thing, but that'll save me time. And once it's done once, I never have to look at that problem again because it's in the instructions. I hope that's helpful. But yeah, think really hard about this. How are your team using the processes? Are they just doing it in their head? Are they individually siloed? Or have they got a process that everybody uses that's consistent? And it's an ongoing process. You're never going to fix everything in one day. So I hope that's useful, makes sense to you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.